Everybody, I am Bon Bao, and you are tuning into Positivity and Pivots. As you guys know, we took the week off last week. Given the current events, we thought that it'd be best for everybody to have a moment to focus on that versus focusing on watching the show. I guess I should say something. If you guys haven't seen some of the thought pieces that I've put out, you see the ink piece I did today, which kind of just gives you a sense of where my head is at. But at the end of the day, I think for me, the most interesting thing has been the level of solidarity and the different types of diversity that are in support. And I do think that I'm very optimistic that we will see difference up and down, not just as a nation, but I think with inside organizations. And so I'm excited for that. I wore a little shirt that we have, Brave AF, just so you guys know that that's underneath. So welcome. We focus on showcasing incredible examples of business resilience during these times. But no matter where you're from or what industry you're in this industry today, we're looking at telco through the lens of 5G. We encourage you to submit your stories of positivity and pivots. And a huge thank you, as always, to SAP and Quantum Metrics for partnering with us to help make this happen. Mobile phones first appeared on the scene in the 1980s. They were developed as a way for people to connect via voice on the go. But it wasn't until almost a decade later that text messaging or SMS came on the scene. And it's only today that we've actually started to see a number of innovations in this space. In fact, I quit my job so that I could invest in messaging technology, and that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. But by the early 2000s, a new generation of devices offered data bandwidth, unlocking a number of new business opportunities that we had never seen before. And over the last 20 years, we've seen the speed of this connectivity increase from 1 megabit per second to 100 megabits per second. But the 5th generation technology that we're going to discuss today promises a major rethinking of the possibilities of mobile data and the promise of 1 gigabit per second data rates. COVID-19 has been effective in revealing our reliance on connectivity. Many of us have been forced to work from home, and with that, our internet speeds are defining our level of productivity. In short, human productivity and connectivity now go hand in hand. The impact of 5G will be felt across many of the industries that we've covered on Positivity and Pivots to date. From the automotive industry, to construction, to energy, to health, to manufacturing, to media, to retail, to transportation. It's likely that autonomous driving and the Internet of Things will be powered by the transformation and benefits that 5G are bringing. We'll see improvements in safety, increased productivity, and increased improvement in quality of life. But in terms of the impact that it's going to have on the consumer is where we think some of the most exciting possibilities are. We will finally be able to experience stable internet connections on things like high-speed trains. We will finally be able to get mobile signal at concerts and festivals. We'll be able to stream and watch HD video on the go anytime, anywhere. And we'll be able to experience things at low latency like mobile VR or AR gaming. And shopping malls and stores across the world will finally be able to deliver that personalized shopping experience that we have so long promised. And 5G might actually be one of the few technologies that might actually help us out of the crisis we're in today. It looks set to be the underlying technology that'll underpin things like telemedicine, remote medical examination, even remote surgeries. It offers new reliability for emergency communications, something that is gravely important during this time and I believe will be important for the future. It's clear that 5G is going to fundamentally transform our way of life, perhaps even more than COVID-19, and this time for the better. With connectivity at the heart of so much digital transformation, it's time for us to take a closer look at what it has to offer, and that's what we're going to do today. For many of us, it will be a major enabler of growth and might be the technology that will contribute to the evolution and survival of both business and even society. So with that, I'm going to begin the show, and I'm going to invite our first guest up. Frank, why don't you join us?
All right.
Hey, Frank, how are you? I'm good, man. I'm good. You look standing and ready. I like it. That's how I do my webcast. So why don't you just tell us who you are, share what you do, maybe your favorite meal during lockdown. I don't know.
All right, good stuff. So I'm Frank Wild. I'm with SAP's Global Center of Excellence. And I'm based in Palo Alto, and my team essentially helps our larger customers innovate with new technologies such as AI, machine learning, and predictive analytics. So we essentially take a blue sky approach to help our customers think differently. And we start by asking, how can we help you innovate using our platform and tools? So also the last couple of years, my team has partnered with Verizon to help our customers weave, in 5G and advanced connectivity into the conversation. We've led 5G pilots to showcase the technology. We've developed a 5G playbook, which includes use cases for how 5G can come to life in industries, such as retail, manufacturing, as well as healthcare. So, for example, we can enable, autonomous forklifts flowing through a factory floor or robotic arms performing remote surgeries. So really the sky's the limit for what we can enable with 5G, coupled with SAP software. So it's really quite exciting.
So what's the pulse of the industry around 5G? Like what are people saying?
So, there's really a great deal of excitement around 5G, and it's something I'm passionate about as well as my team's passionate about. We've had customers and partners come to us to learn more, to find out, how are we weaving 5G into our offerings? And along those lines, we instill that 5G is really more than a network, it's a platform for innovation. So we partner with Verizon as well as consulting firms such as Deloitte, IBM and Accenture to create these 5G playbooks, where we can help our customers think about new business models, define new revenue streams. And we started initially with manufacturing, with retail as well as with oil and gas, and we're expanding, those 5G playbooks, into other industries such as healthcare and the public sector. So it's really an exciting time to be sparking this level of innovation, with our customers. And like you mentioned, when you think about COVID, we can bring a number of solutions to bear, like autonomous checkout in retail or next-gen collaboration solutions for remote workers. So we can enable, 3D immersive experiences. So we move beyond kind of a 2D world and move much more into a 3D one. So we're really on the cusp of quite a bit of change, which is really exciting.
So I'm wondering, how does this change the way that employees will interact internally? How does it change the way that consumers will interact with businesses? Just talk, you mentioned some of the innovation like autonomous forklifts, but what does it mean in terms of the consumer?
So when you think about it, really the fundamental change, and you hit on it a second ago, is the fact that we can create personalized experiences at scale. So when you think about SAP's software platform, we've got data management, analytics, experience management solutions like Qualtrics. So we can tailor both consumer as well as employee experiences like we never have before. So imagine walking into a local grocery store and you have a 3D immersive image of the store. You can see that experience, which is personalized for you based on, what products have you bought before, what's in stock, what's out of stock in real time. And you can also weave in mixed reality. So you have immersive experiences at your fingertips. Imagine being able to pick up a box of cereal, wave your phone over it to be able to see, well, what are the product contents? What does that cereal actually look like? Are there food allergies that I need to be aware of? So we can fundamentally change that retail journey, using 5G as one core component of it. And we've also woven, 5G into an overall, our overall software platform to take into account edge services and data management. So it's a very, seamless offering moving forward for our customers.
It's interesting because during my time at PepsiCo, we looked at the digital shelf, we looked at augmented reality, and to your point, to be honest with you, it just wasn't there yet. And the consumer, we actually showcased an example of it at South by Southwest, and people went crazy for it. But the reality was we were faking so much of it behind the scenes, and because the data connectivity wasn't there. So I agree with you. We're going to see business models like we've never really seen before. Help me understand a little bit, because I know we're going to talk with Heidi, who's our next guest. They've been rolling 5G out, but talk a little bit about what's the timeline? Like, when do we expect 5G to get to a place where, and I know we talked about this during our conversation, when do we expect it to get to a place where we feel like it's reached some level of true adoption or penetration?
Well, there's two aspects to keep in mind, one of which is the public network. So when you think about, for example, Verizon's deployed 5G already. In 2019, they deployed 5G to 30 cities. They're poised to launch 5G in another 30 cities this year. So they're going to have essentially double the footprint. But to be honest with you, where SAP and where we're very excited is much more on the private network side. So we can implement, and we've done this over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. We can implement private 5G networks in retail stores and manufacturing facilities and remote oil fields. So we can take advantage of 5G where the public network may not reach just yet or may not reach for a few years. So we've partnered with Verizon, we've partnered with Deloitte and IBM and Accenture. So we're in a unique position to bring 5G solutions to life, on the shop floor, in retail settings, and not just improve operations, but really create new customer experiences and new employee experiences, unlike anything we've had before. So it's really a very, very exciting time.
So we have just a question from the audience, and thank you, Michael. So the question was, and I think that this is where there is, well, first, I do want to not shy away, and I apologize. Tom is up next, and we're going to also talk about public-private. I don't want to deviate from that too far. I'm going to come back around to it because I think there is an interesting conversation, a really interesting conversation there. But this is, I think, a fundamental question, which I think a lot of viewers are probably going to ask anyway. Is 5G just an upgrade, or what is it an upgrade from what we have today, or is it fundamental?
It's absolutely an upgrade, but it goes well beyond that. It's really what we refer to much more as a step function change in capability.
Right.
Because when you marry 5G with edge services, with AI, and with machine learning, you create a fundamentally different network fabric for us to be able to create essentially a platform for innovation. So when we sit down with customers of ours, we help instill the mindset that 5G is not just a faster network. Yes, it is absolutely 20 to 30 times faster than 4G. But the fact that you now can bring edge computing as well as create network slices, you can guarantee a level of connectivity to a device which you haven't been able to do before. So whether that's a robotic arm for remote surgery, an autonomous vehicle, or just kind of an iPhone or an iPad, we can create targeted experiences moving forward, which we haven't been able to do before. So, imagine, performing a remote surgery. So we can marry Verizon connectivity with SAP software and our data platform, to bring this capability to life. So rather than sending a doctor to a remote location, for example, we can guarantee a connection to that robotic arm and charge for that network, slice as a service. So that in and of itself becomes very exciting.
Right. The last thing I want is to lose my connection while I'm in the middle of getting surgery. That's probably
exactly.
That's probably not what I'm looking for. A lot of people would opt out of that telemed experience. So going back to the public-private, because I think it has to do with this, which is enhanced security issues, I'm guessing, right, in general.
Absolutely.
And then when we look at private versus public, who's going to be able to secure those networks better, or are we all just going to get there, or what's the, because I think that's one of the questions too.
Well, it's going to take, you're talking about a fundamental redesign of the public network. So it's going to take, probably 2 or 3 years longer than kind of moving to 4G, for example, because you're talking about a significant infrastructure investment that each of the telcos are going to need to make. And, when you look at, Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile, they're doing an outstanding job of bringing 5G to life. To have Verizon, for example, have an additional 30 cities just this year, that's a significant, infrastructure investment. So we are very bullish, both on the public and the private side, around what we can bring to life. And just like you mentioned, advanced security is one key component of that. Being able to sit in a stadium, like a football stadium or watching a baseball game, and you maintain connectivity where that Wi-Fi network may be saturated or that 4G network couldn't maintain a signal. With 5G, you can support 1 million connections, 1 million devices in a square kilometer. So that becomes very exciting to be able to make sure that every fan at that football game is able to maintain a connection.
Heidi is coming up, so maybe we should just say hockey game from now on.
Absolutely.
Okay, last question. Do you have any fear about what 5G might bring from are we all going to be stuck in this virtual reality world? Is there any negative that you can see? It could be no, by the way.
No, to be honest with you, I see just an awful lot of potential. Being able to emulate and have, for example, mixed reality surgeries. So the doctor, instead of looking at a separate screen as they're doing a surgery, imagine having a superimposed view of exactly the route they need to take to be able to conduct that surgery, and it's superimposed on the patient. So I really see a number of benefits, and immersive, whether it's immersive learning, whether it's immersive experiences for surgeries and for employees, just across the board, I really see the tide rising and it kind of raising all ships. So to be honest with you, I'm very excited and very bullish around what 5G entails.
Right, and if anybody wants to learn more, because of the amazing work you guys have been doing at SAP and 5G, and for those of you guys who don't know, I'm very close with the 5G guys, as well as you guys are part of the incubator. So, and we have one of the companies here on the show today, and so it is amazing work when you see some of the proof of concepts that they have in market operating today. How do people get in touch with you, Frank?
Oh, I would say, be happy to field any questions, with me and my team, as well as, the work that we're doing with, Deloitte and Accenture and IBM. So feel free to reach out to any one of us, because we've pulled together, very much a consortium approach, because we realize that to be effective with 5G, it really takes a very strong partner model. So be happy to, field any questions to be able to help customers, even think about, and ideate around some of the 5G work that we've done.
Right. Well, thank you, everybody. You heard it here. Frank is available to answer questions if anybody needs, but you can only send them if you have a 5G network, which is, no, I'm just kidding. All right. Thank you so much, Frank. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Bonin. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Up. Oh, Jasmine, come on. Sorry, people. Jasmine, she's a little rusty because we took a week off. So we're getting back in. Okay. We're bringing up a dear friend of mine. Hey, Tom, how are you? Representative Tom.
Great, good to see you.
It's good to see you too, sir. So tell us who you are.
Well, Bonin, I appreciate you doing this. This is a great conversation. Frank did a wonderful job with his presentation. Look, I'm Tom Graves. I'm in my final 6 months of my public service career. I've been in Congress now 10.5 years, and in the state legislature, I was there 8 years prior to that. So 18.5 years coming to an end, but my focus has generally been on a lot of the topics you're talking about here today. In Congress, I've been on the Appropriations Committee and chaired the Financial Services Committee there. With a lot of my focus being on financial technology, fintech world, as well as defense. And with all of that, the synergy there is going to be cybersecurity, which has been a main focus of mine, and which brings in 5G, what we're talking about. So probably a little disclaimer for me. You may see my connectivity be poor, go in and out. I'm in the mountains of northwest Georgia, where I live, and hey, 5G would be awesome. I'd love to have it. Heck, we would love to have just great broadband, right. Quite frankly. So the need for this is very important.
Hey, Tom, so, you've had your hands busy, I'm sure, with everything that's been going on and the committees that you chair and that you are part of. And so
I guess I have to assume the connection went out, right?
Oh, we did lose you a little bit. Can you hear me now?
Typically what happens here, a lot of folks log on about this time of night. Maybe I have no idea what happens, but we just get bumped.
Can you hear me now? Congressman? I think we might have lost Tom a little bit. Why don't we do this? Why don't we switch over? Heidi, if you don't mind, pinch hitting or I don't know, what do they call it? Let's bring Heidi up. And then we'll come back to Tom. What do they call it in hockey? Like, is it a
ultimate pivot? You just pivoted to me.
Right.
So I know it's going to be a great conversation.
Right. So we'll jump in and just get a message out to Tom and ask him to jump back on. You guys, okay. But what is it called in hockey? So I just is it just a substitution? I'm not really.
An assist. I just gave you an assist.
Right, there we go. Okay, so we just pulled off an assist. I think quite successfully, by the way. So another very dear friend and long-term friend, Heidi, everybody. Heidi Browning, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
I am the Chief Marketing Officer of the National Hockey League. It's my 4th season, and
Right.
wow, what a weird season, right?
Everything though, not just this season. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Vegas. I mean, like you've seen it all, man.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I'm charged with growth of our audience, specifically among the next generation of fans. And so what that means is I spend a lot of time with digital, with social media, with data-driven fan engagement programs.
Right. So you touched on it that, wow, this has been a crazy year. So with all of this, how have you pivoted this year, and what did you guys change? What are you guys doing? Like, how are you dealing? Because you guys are hit, I mean, extremely hard. Like,
Yeah. On March 12th, we put our season on pause, and it took us about a week to like really think through what this meant. And we realized that the one connectivity that people would have with hockey, since it was no longer being played in arenas, was the content that we could create about our sport, about our players. And our IT team is magnificent. They outfitted our studios team with the technology they needed to start creating and mass producing content for us. And we became a content machine, content not just for our digital and social channels, but content that we were airing on broadcast networks. And that was really a transformative moment for us, because it taught us you don't have to have perfectly produced content all the time to be successful and engaging. And it also gave us an opportunity to really focus on our players. And as hockey fans know, our players are very quiet off the ice. They're very humble. They don't participate a lot in social media, but now they're at home sheltering in place just like the rest of us. And this gave us an opportunity to have the players participate in social media and showcase their lives and their wives and what they're eating, what they're watching, and how they're working out. And it really turned into a positive moment that came out of this situation.
you know, it's interesting because, yeah, I mean, watch out though. You might have created monsters. You don't know. You know, you gotta now you gotta be careful. You know, be careful what you wish for. But it's so funny because we've known each other for a while, and we've been around this digital game for a while. So to use that word, given hockey game. And the question really is, we've been saying for a long time, I think, like low quality content, publish, and there was always a no, or there's always now it's being done and it's working. I've just been questioning this because I'll just give you an example. I started watching, Fallon.
Yeah.
His wife is the camera, is the light, the key grip one, and the camera person, and the kids are climbing all over. And during that journey, you're like, what was amazing about it was that you just felt like everybody was in the same situation as you, and it was just seeing humanity on display, and that was a beautiful thing. Then they started getting the production value a little bit better, like learning how to do animations on Zoom and stuff like that, right? But then you start realizing, I kind of do like well-produced content. So let me ask, do you think the consumer is going to continue to appreciate kind of low-fidelity content? Are they going to long for higher produced, or is it just going to be all of the same and all of the above?
I think the answer is both. I think we need both types of content. Just like in fashion, you wear your high-end brands, and then you have your Gap T-shirt underneath, right?
Right.
So
I won't tell the Gap you said that.
Yeah, and so but you know what you mean. You have to have a mix of things, and when you look at sort of the engagement with different pieces of content, you can take a piece of highly produced highlight reel, or you can put it up against somebody who shot that goal with their phone.
Right.
And when you look in social media, the one that gets the most shares, the most likes, the most comments is that first person experience, and so that's why it's important to have both perspectives everywhere.
It sounds like you guys are mastering that. So talk a little bit about what's going to happen to the season. Like, what are we going to see?
So the season is, we called it, we ended the regular season. We set up our format, our playoff format. So we're moving right to the playoffs. We're going to have a play-in round, and we're going to have it with 24 teams. So normally when we finish the season, we'd go into playoffs with 16 teams. We're giving 24 teams a chance to get in. And then we're going to have hockey this summer. And we're really excited about it. We're hoping that, the guys, we just announced today the date for training camp, which means training camp happens, and then we'll get out on the ice. What we need to do, though, is really think about how we do this in a safe way for our players and for our staff. And so, unfortunately, what this means is we're going to have the most exciting playoffs in sports happen without fans in the building. And in order for us to really control the environment so that we can minimize risk of exposure, we're narrowing and focusing our playoffs in 2 cities. And these 2 cities will host both of the games throughout all the rounds of the playoffs. We're going to create essentially a bubble, right, where the players go in, they're in a hotel, they've got entertainment, they got food, they got that, but their world is going to be the arena and this bubble that we create, so that we can make sure that we're, again, minimizing risk, maintaining health, and still getting to give these guys the chance that they've been playing for all year to win that cup.
Right. Fair enough. How long is that going to be? How long are they going to be in a bubble?
They're hoping until they come home with the cup. So, if you look at the length of what the playoffs could go to, it could be 72, 73, 75 days. It's a long time, but ultimately we hope it's worth it. So
right. I'm sure it'll be, but the good news is they've already had practice. It's been like 90 to 100 days for most people anyway. So they're like, we got this one. We're doing it. Except now they get to actually play hockey versus just
yeah.
So that's exciting. So we are talking about 5G, and I know we deviated a little bit, but you have rolled out 5G in most stadiums, right? And so when you think about it, how is it going to change? How is the connectivity going to change? Even the experience that you're about to create now, I know some of the innovations that you guys have that you're excited about, that people are going to be able to view. Probably this is the first time they're going to be able to view it during a game.
So we haven't rolled it out in every stadium. I mean, it is a much more complicated process and it's taking a while. So we are putting it into different arenas across North America. But just speaking about 5G in general, it is absolutely essential for creating that next generation fan experience. So you think about a lot of the new stadiums and arenas that are being built. We've got, new arenas going up in Seattle and Long Island, and these are going to be state-of-the-art arenas that have the latest and greatest of all technology and innovations. But most of these experiences are going to be grounded in mobility and the ability for us to be able to service our fans without any outages is going to be critical. Like, you go to a game now and you try to post on Instagram, and you have to wait because everyone else is trying to do it. But the arena of the future and the fan experience of the future, we're going to be, think of it, it's already starting with mobile ticketing, right? Then you've got cashless transactions. You got in-seat ordering for both food and beverage, as well as commerce for buying your jersey, etc. And you think about the opportunity to combine that with what we already know about our fans, who share a lot of data with us. Most of us have incredible data warehouses on the back end, so that we can actually personalize their experience, give them seat upgrades, know that they drink 2 beers and give them a 3rd beer, tie it into facial recognition so that we know when they walk in the arena that this is a VIP. There's so much opportunity for an incredible experience, but it is grounded in that mobile connectivity. But the most exciting part is really this notion around data, and the data that we have to have connectivity so that the data can be translated in a myriad of ways for the fan experience. You think about how can we take the data that's happening, the puck and player tracking, the players wear a chip in their jersey and there's a chip in the puck, and that data can create all this amazing stats about the speed of the player, how fast was the puck being shot, etc. And this can help enhance both the real world experience through AR as well as the broadcast experience. We can also use this data to pump it into our coaching apps, and we partner with our friends at SAP on this, taking the stats and some of this data to get into the coaching app so you can make real-time decisions while you're on the ice. We also, in places where it's legal, you're seeing mobile sports betting happening, and that's a great opportunity for us to take this data, fuel it into prop bets, and allow people to have fun with that there. And then the last piece is really the VR experience. This data can then be translated into three-dimensional objects, and it's a really amazing way for us to bring the game not only in a new experience in the arena, but imagine being outside of the arena and feeling like you're up against the glass. You're feeling the game just like everyone else who's in there through this virtual reality experience.
Right. I think it's huge. I mean, I think that it's going to transform sports viewing, sports attending, and that's the nice thing is that I know there was always so much concern when you talk to originally when you talk to some of the leagues about the digital experience. Fans are going to stop going to games, and the reality is that you're going to enhance the games dramatically, and people are going to enjoy that experience they can have in the stadium that they can't have anywhere else, or in the arena that they can't have anywhere else. But you're also, I think what I've taken away from this is that if you look at all the events that have been crushed, so like the conferences, those guys that are doing virtual and digital, now there's something that's lost from the physical, but the number of viewership that they've been able to achieve is far greater. So you're able to increase the affinity and engagement of fans that you never could reach in other ways. And especially if I can actually have the game that interactive brought to me, that's
exactly
informational, right? So I'm excited, and I'm glad you're leading the way. Speaking of leading the way, last question.
Okay.
How has unless you have a question for me? But,
no, I'm good.
All right. How has your leadership approach changed as a result of everything that's happened over the last 110 days?
110 days. I feel like in many ways we're connected deeper with all my colleagues across the organization. We started just like everyone else with the Zoom meetings, and really the company has really adopted Slack, which is it was being piloted in certain teams, but now you're seeing a lot more engagement in that. But the Zoom conferences and communication and connection has been really critical. We do daily meetings with various different groups in the team, in the organization. So I've tightened bonds with people that aren't on my team specifically, but are in my teams across the organization. And we try to have fun. We have happy hours. We play Mafia. We play bingo. We play trivia games. We do all kinds of fun stuff. Talent shows, just to make sure that while we're working really hard, and I do feel like we have this great responsibility to serve our fans with content and engagement while they're waiting for hockey to come back. So we are spending long days and long nights, but we also have to have a little fun. And since everyone's sheltering at home, and many of them are in New York, and they're and not able to get outside, and at least for a while they weren't, it's really important to have that human-to-human connection as much as you can through Zoom and other technology.
I agree. I think that's missing. I'll tell you, we started being able to go across the street to a little French place, and now there's an Italian place too. And even though you're 6 feet apart, and sometimes I'm like 10 feet, 12 feet, I don't know. Just being able to have that human connection is something that's, it's amazing. So, and I'm glad I have a human connection with you. So
you too, my friend. Thank you for having me here. I miss you, Bon, and I can't wait to hug you in real life.
Big hug. I know. I can't wait to see you. I'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye, Heidi. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Okay, let's bring up Tom. It looks like Tom's back. Hey, Tom. Sorry, we lost you for a second.
Hey, we're trying.
Sorry about that. So, speaking of connectivity, you were saying you wish you had better connectivity. So, what is 5G connectivity? What does it mean to you?
Hey, I'm glad you caught that. So here now I'm trying my cell phone.
It looks so much better.
I'm grateful for Heidi and her well, I appreciate Heidi and her ability to step in and fill in the gap there. But connectivity, that's what it's all about. Here I am. I serve in U.S. Congress. I've been there 10 and a half years now, closing out this year, and 18 years in public service. And yet I have poor broadband service, just like most of America when you get outside of the metro areas. And so connectivity is so important. It's so vital from a national security perspective, but more so an economic perspective, economic vitality, getting out to all the communities throughout all our states. So it's certainly needed, and you've seen it here demonstrated with me today.
And you're super passionate about connectivity in terms of, when we first met, you shared that passion, and it really around rural areas, to your point, places that don't have it today. What does it change? You said economic vitality, but go ahead.
Yeah, it takes economic opportunity to all corners of all states. And, think about now, I mean, it's really an exciting moment we've been through. The last 110 days have been challenging, they've been difficult, but created an amazing opportunity because we've seen the workforce disrupted. This displacement of the workforce is going to create so much tremendous opportunities for the states that go after the workforce. I shared this with a task force here in the state of Georgia. I said, we should be the workforce destination state.
Right.
We should stop chasing the corporate headquarters and go after the employees, because the state of Georgia has so much to offer, from just beautiful mountains to the coast to great cities and so much so much to offer. And I threw the slogan out there. I said, instead of build it and they will come, invite them to come, and I bet the others will come build it. That's what connectivity will allow for. It just it's a paradigm shift in how we all think, but we have to change how we think.
And I love that. And I think you're right. And I think a destination for talent is I think it's what we forget, that there's so many good people who are looking to also connect with other good people and creating that. I think it's a huge idea. And I think that, I'm all in. So let me ask, so we talked about connectivity and we shared, in the pre-call, and we talked a little bit about this. So will it be the role of the federal government to make it happen, or will it be the private sector to really drive 5G, or where's your head at?
I think you're seeing the focus clearly the private sector. The private sector is more innovative, it's swifter to act, and it moves quicker. But it needs the support of the federal government. It needs the spectrum place in which to place the 5G, and that's probably one of the slow, the slow processes right now, is creating enough spectrum to allow this to operate and create that connectivity. Also, the federal government, not only facilitates it, but needs to supply the standards that the equipment should comply with to create the security that's necessary. So I really enjoyed listening to Frank as well, and he was talking about all the great opportunities, and he didn't see a downside, and that's a positive attitude. And this is a positively show, I know that. But all of those opportunities create new opportunities for threats, and those threat actors will have more, from a cyber perspective, will have more access points. And so the stronger the system, the better. But there needs to be unified standards, especially when you think about the Internet of Things. And you and I talked about autonomous vehicles, we talked about refrigerators, everything. All of that connectivity is going to occur. Everything will be connected at some point when you fully realize a 5G concept. And so any weak link in that connectivity can lead from, from outside of your home, somebody connecting in through your home through an Internet of Things device, moving through your router, getting to your laptop or whatever might be important, and all the way back to your corporate headquarters, and somehow working through there and getting to the information they're after. So we have to be sure it's secure. And that's certainly one of the number one priorities I think the federal government should provide that ability of.
Right. And I want to talk, I think that I think it's interesting because one, I think to your point, standards, right? So that's one of the challenges we have with the internet today, quite frankly. Privacy, data, like those are, the government is now kind of really putting those things in place. And quite frankly, we deal in the messaging space, and it's still the wild, wild west in some respects there too. And so, and look, when I started my career, early days, we did a lot of pharmaceutical advertising, and we did a lot of search. And at that time, you couldn't put adverse events in a search ad. And so the FDA came out and said, sorry, not the FDA, the FCC came out and said, nope, no more advertising in Google. And then all of a sudden, all the, elixirs were advertising for the cure for certain diseases, and you didn't have any reputable FDA approved or drugs there. And they said, oops, we screwed up. And a lot of times they're a little bit behind the private sector. But I do think that it's important in this case because we're putting so much on the line here. Like we were joking around, but earlier with Frank, like I don't want my surgery to to have a connection issue or even a breach, and I don't want my car to have to try to jump to another private network and all of a sudden it's not compatible. So I think that that's such an important point you made, and I know you're so passionate about it. And I also think that the cybersecurity, and I just want you to paint, because this is why when we talk, I don't think people really understand the magnitude of what cybersecurity in a today has challenges and in a heightened state of so many more access points. So just give a sense of like the magnitude of cybersecurity just to national security.
Sure. So, as you're aware, I'm working on a book right now, and the title of the book is, it relates to the next unseen enemy, and then that's the real threat. I mean, and it's talking about system failure, and when we have a cybersecurity system failure nationally, and the federal government does have a role to defend, I believe, the economic networks and the personal networks. They should provide that structure in which people can defend themselves, but also help defend. But whenever that's weakened, it is remarkable the damage that occurs, and it happens each and every day. The millions and the millions of attempts that occur every day on innocent individuals and their personal identities, it is occurring, and it's occurring from all kinds of different avenues and actors. It can be foreign nations, sponsored from foreign nations, to just individuals seeking to make a buck on some data. But it is real, and it is very significant. And it's from a national security perspective. You just think about 5G and what it means. And we were talking about what's an analogy of 5G. First of all, we're all accustomed to the early days of just you plug it in and you plug your line into your wall. It's a dial-up kind of concept. That's a very direct concept. And working through Ethernet into Wi-Fi. 5G today, when it's fully implemented, it's the equivalent of oxygen that we breathe, as related to the bloodstream and the arteries that connect. And so it is omnipresent in essence, and everything will be connected through that. And it's really important that when that occurs, and we have time, we don't have to rush this. That's what's important. 4G and LTE, all that it's not perfect, but there's no reason to rush it and make a mistake here with rushing out 5G too quick. But I'll point out some of the challenges we have real quick, and that is equipment access. Access to good equipment. There's only a couple of suppliers that we as a nation can accept equipment from, and they're not even from. We're talking about Ericsson and Samsung and Nokia. We have some, and that's the hardware side of it. We have some, I guess it'd be Qualcomm and others that build chips, and we have some software components in the U.S. But Huawei, we talk about Huawei quite a bit. What is Huawei, and why is it a threat? And this is it. I'll just sum it up like this. The Huawei equipment and that type of equipment, it's a gateway. It's a gateway of information flow, and it's a scrubber of that information, and it pulls down and has the ability to pull down information on U.S. citizens or on businesses. Imagine conducting a board meeting, a high-level board meeting, making strategic decisions for a company that is transmitting, that's doing it virtually through Huawei equipment, and it happens to be a competitor to a Chinese company. That would be a major concern, particularly if you're a defense contractor. But if you're a financial service contractor, an insurance guy, all these others, those are major concerns. So we have to make sure this is a very secure capability when it is fully implemented.
Right. And I think that when you begin to think about that, and there are nefarious actors, and there are, and so that continued increase of vulnerability. And to your point, we are now managing organizations at scale that are global companies over video conferencing. Right. And to be quite frank, Zoom has done every single thing that they can to give the most reliable service that they can, but they weren't ready for this. They saw none of this coming, none of this at scale. None of the guys did, to be quite frank. It's not just Zoom, it's all the guys. So in the beginning, you saw the vulnerability of people just jumping on the Zoom calls because they didn't have the, hey, let me admit you function. And so just that simple. Imagine you're running a high-level board meeting and and the funny thing is you don't really see all the people who are on it, and you're not looking at every name. So that just shows you in a small microcosm what that potential vulnerability is. So
well, even more so than that, and this is how simplistic it can be, is that it's the information flow from where you and I are talking right now. It has to go through hardware and has to go through equipment, and before it ever gets to you, it can be intercepted. And that's where the cybersecurity threats are. It's not that somebody can join and watch and Zoom bomb a meeting. That's not a cybersecurity threat. What the threat is that the information is intercepted in between, and that's where the equipment and the hardware are so important that they have to be secure.
So talking about equipment and hardware, what do you think? What's the rollout And has COVID delayed the rollout of 5G? Has it enhanced the rollout? Has it created greater sense of urgency?
It's there's been some delays because of supply chain delays, and we rely heavily on foreign equipment coming from the European side, and so obviously some delays there. But what has it done? It's created a whole new awareness, and why is it needed, and why does it need to be secure? Because now we've seen the workforce is displaced so much, and the demand is so high, whether it's with education or it's workforces or whatever it might be, or government. In our case, I mean, you think about, we're conducting meetings and calls and hearings almost every day virtually as members of Congress. That needs to be secure, and we need better ways to do it. I struggle with it, as you've seen even here tonight. So it's important that we have the rollout be correct. So what did COVID-19 do? I think it demonstrated the need for it. Connectivity is going to be vitally important in the future. Workforces are going to want to work from other places other than the metro areas or in a single building. And then secondly, I think it showed us that we need to be sure that the equipment we use comes from reputable areas that we can trust. And so knowing that China does control Huawei. Now, Huawei equipment's really good equipment. Unfortunately, it is overseen by the Chinese government, and it can be used for wrong purposes. In fact, just this year, I mean, multiple employees of Huawei were indicted in the United States for stealing secrets of U.S. companies. I mean, that's how competitive it is on the international scale for information. And so I think that new awareness now is global, and you've seen the United Kingdom and others, adjust accordingly as well, and a little more apprehensive about their equipment purchase.
Right. And so, what do you think? What do you think it's going to take for the federal government and private sector? Is that already happening? Are they already collaborating on it, or are they the two still too far away to see, or what's the?
Yeah, so it's all about money, right? It's all about cost. You heard Verizon's rolling out. Where are they rolling out? They're rolling out in metro areas, right? That's okay. So that's fishing in a barrel. That's easier money, but the equipment's not there. The phones aren't capable. There's not one iPhone I'm aware of that's 5G capable, right? So I mean, the equipment is not all quite there yet. But I think where the federal government can help, and that is allow for creativity to get further out, to get to the rural areas, to get to where it's really needed. Actually, if it was up to me, that's where I would start. I would start in the rural areas. I'd start out and move in versus starting in and moving out, because you never end up getting out there. It's always going to be something else that's in the way. So that's where I think the federal government can help, is that incentive to start in the rural areas first and move in, and maybe allow, there's creative ideas. Let's say you take rural areas, have local companies that do cable, do telephone, do other things. Allow private companies, maybe not the big telcos, but others, to straddle them, provide hardware, invest in them, and allow them to overlay local providers of other technology.
Right. So this is kind of a left field question, but why are you so excited about space?
Hey, it's emerging. I love emerging things, right? And so we're going to the moon and we're going to Mars. That's exciting. And with that comes so much innovation. You think what's come out of space programs over the years, over the decades, what that does for innovation and does, throughout our economy and just, heck, Tang, right? What are the great innovations from space travel? And so there's just, it's fun, it's exciting, it's ambitious, it's far reaching, and that's who we are as Americans, and that excites me.
Right, and that's what that's my biggest frustration with how long we have not focused on space, because most of the innovation we see today came out of our race to space, and so internet. So and we've just had that absence, and we also haven't inspired a generation to believe that anything is possible. Like, wow, we left Earth, we're going to Mars. Like, I'm all over it. And the funny thing, you don't know this, but when I was at Mondelez, we owned Tang. And one of the first things I tried to do was I tried to put Tang back in space on Branson's. It got super delayed, and there was regulations about how old you could be. I was trying to put a family up. Anyway, so I never got it done. But that's very funny. Last question, and I'll let you go.
Yeah.
How has this changed you as a leader? Like, how is it being locked down for 90 days? Or, I know you still had to go into DC and vote and stuff like that, but how has it changed you?
It's like everybody else. It's the adjustments. It's like being able to do your job from a different spot. I think it's refined. This is what I think is cool about episodes like this in our life, is that we find new ways, more efficient ways, better ways to do the same things we've been doing each and every day prior to that. And we get better outcomes, and we have a little more time for things we enjoy. And so that's been good for me. And in addition to my transition, as you know, as I transition at the end of this year, I'm transitioning at a transitional time, and with that comes fear, but also great opportunity and excitement too.
Well, Representative, we are happy that you are representing us. So thank you so much for taking the time, and we really appreciate it.
No, thanks, Bon. Thanks for having me. Sorry for the Wi-Fi troubles too.
Okay, right. It's all good. It illustrated the point, so it worked out in our favor. Thank you so much, Tom.
All right. Have a great night.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our episode. And so, as always, we save the best for last. I'm sorry for those guests that are still on. Yes, you heard me, the best for last. Ashley, come on down. How are you, Ashley?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's great. So for those of you who don't know, Ashley is in the SAP incubator alongside us in Open Message. And so it's been fun. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Ashley Crowder. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ventana. And we make it easy to take existing manufacturing design files and immediately create 3D web and AR experiences proven to double online sales.
And so you're part of not just the SAP lab, but also part of Verizon. So just talk to us about like how that's helped accelerate your business. Just really quick, so everybody knows that if you want to see the most amazing demo, you got to see their demo, because they literally, any customer they're talking to, they basically just find a CAD file of one of their products and they can show a 3D version. Like she's like, oh, here's speakers, here's a piece of machinery. So it's really amazing technology, and it's fast, it's beautiful. But how has the 5G lab helped to accelerate the innovation of innovate your business?
Yeah, we were so excited to officially join the 5G lab in LA the beginning of this year, which is crazy with everything that happened. It has now become virtual, but it makes sense for the 5G lab. It should be virtual and in spatial computing, and there should be a VR world to all meet in, right? And for us, it's incredible, because the way our software works is it's a cloud-based system, stores 3D assets, processes them, and quickly serves them to whatever device you want, whether that's your website, whether that's augmented reality, whether that's a virtual reality headset. But it's all hosted on the cloud. And, without getting too technical, our software just makes that asset look amazing and great and compatible with all those different devices, but we're serving it in real time and doing real-time rendering. So the faster your internet, the better we can be, the higher fidelity that 3D asset can be, and just the more we can do. So as 5G rolls out, we're just going to be able to do even larger 3D files, even more photorealistic, basically, to every device everywhere.
What's the craziest thing that 5G is going to allow you to do? Like photorealism, like what's the craziest, like when you guys think like, okay, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as a startup, if we make it, here's what we're going to, I'm just kidding. When we make it, here's what we see our journey being. Or it's you as a thought leader in the space.
Completely. So I mean, as a company, we want to help create a 3D version of every product in the world and help people distribute that. And, right now, everyone is thinking, e-commerce. Yes, your website should have this. It doubles conversion rates and reduces sales. If you want to make more money, you should be getting a 3D strategy, right? But where this
I want to make more money. Should I get a 3D strategy?
Yeah. Well, where this gets super exciting is you start thinking, if you have a 3D asset, not only can you have that on your website, can you do augmented reality, you could do programmatic product placement in videos or TV. So we could be watching the same show, but I'm seeing someone wearing Adidas sneakers and you're seeing someone wearing Nikes. And you need a 3D asset to do that. And that's real-time programmatic 3D replacement. And to do that, you need really great internet and 5G. I heard you guys talking in the beginning about surgery, and we are working with a few healthcare companies, helping them with the 3D aspect of that's kind of step one, to be able to be, how do you visualize it? How does a surgeon visualize these things in New York as they're performing a surgery in LA? And so it's a combination of all things, but I think that will be incredible, kind of democratize healthcare in a way. But we've always been really in that advertising space. Most people don't even realize today you can advertise in 3D on Google. Today,
Right.
you can do that. Most people, and they're like, "What?" If you have a 3D asset, you can do that.
To be honest with you, I had no clue either. I had
Yeah.
no clue. So, it's been crazy times. Have you had to pivot, or how have you pivoted your business during this kind of period?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting and crazy for us. So we started the company almost 8 years ago, and so that long ago, there were no headsets, phones couldn't support AR yet. So we were doing lots of location-based mixed reality experiences. We built a profitable business doing that, which is very event-based. As we kept building out our software and kind of waiting for this right moment of phones supporting AR, web supporting 3D. And we made that switch to focus on our software at the end of last year. And COVID really just became this watershed moment of every retailer overnight realizing they're now a D2C company because my store is closed. My website needs to be better. How do I give people a physical experience at home? And AR and 3D is kind of that next best thing. So it's really just accelerated that transition for us. And we even we realized we don't need an office. It's a bunch of engineers and this, and everyone commits their code to Gitbucket, and we do Zoom calls. So
yeah, it's been. It's crazy. So speaking of that, distributed leadership. Distributed teams now. How have you been able to manage your teams remotely? How have you changed your leadership style? And then,
It's a great question. Even before COVID, we always did like a Wednesday morning team meeting. It was like a breakfast meeting. We'd bring in breakfast, just wait, and we'd do like some team building activity. And so we've now just moved that digitally, which has been so important because I feel like it's the one time people have like the casual coffee conversation. And we just pick different things. Like this week, everyone sent in like an embarrassing childhood photo. And we like showed them, and we had to guess who was who, and it was just funny. And people told stories about, more about their childhood, and it took 15 minutes, but it was super fun. So really trying to make sure that continues, so it's not just Zoom meeting work.
Well, we tried to help by breaking it up. So this is kind of a Zoom meeting kind of work, but also a little fun maybe, right?
Yeah, this is fun for me, yeah.
Right, fair enough. So Ashley, any last words of advice for those that are building a business during this time period?
Yeah, I would just say, to the name of this podcast, stay positive, keep pushing, and don't be afraid to, I always say we throw everything on the table. Look at every possible solution. And we really are in like a totally new world now. So don't be afraid to make changes. So
don't be afraid to pivot. Well, Ashley, it's a pleasure getting to know you and watching your success and seeing the product. I'm a big fan. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Everybody, I just want to say thank you guys. I know we took a week off. Thank you guys for tuning back in with us. I'm just excited to be able to continue to share some of the best guests, some of the best thoughts with some of the best people, all the people who watch, who listen. I love the comments. I'll continue to respond to people. I do want to leave you with one other shirt that I was going to wear. I had to make a decision, and that was this one. It just says human on it. And at the end of the day, I think with everything that's going on, it's the message that I think we need to remember most is that, when it comes down to this, we're all part of this human experiment. And at the end of the day, the result of that experiment is ultimately going to be the result of what we do and what our actions are. And so, as with everything, if we choose to be nefarious, then the experiment will turn out nefarious. But I feel that every single one of us wants to see this human experiment be a success. And so with that, I hope you stay positive. I hope you keep pivoting. And most importantly, I hope you tune in next week. I'm out.